built on what they hide. Pink hydrogen wrapped up neat, nuclear's trick disguised as clean. Painted bright for all to see, a scheme that
Hello
leaves us
everybody,
lost as a
welcome.
ball and tall weeds. Pink hydrogen wrapped up neat, nuclear's
Welcome.
disguised as clean. Painted bright for all to see, a scheme that leaves us lost as a ball and tall weeds. Pink hydrogen wrapped up neat, nuclear's trick
Awesome,
disguised as clean.
That's pink hydrogen.
Painted bright for all to see, a scheme that leaves us lost as a ball and tall weeds. A Trojan gift,
Many
dressed in a
others
lie, a
anti-nuclear
polished mask for what's awry.
songs. He does all the videos himself and the music. And away we go. Hello everybody, welcome back. You can call into these shows. This is the last show before the anniversary on Tuesday. I kind of pushed myself a bit too much this week, and it'll give me a chance to get a really good show together for Tuesday, which is the anniversary. 290 counts per minute in my studio. Oh man, 300. So that means the plume, 325. Look at that, folks. That means the plume from the forest fire in Japan is here. That's what that means. Wow. Look at this thing. Holy smokes. So there's a big forest fire around 26 square kilometers burning in Japan in a nuclear wasteland, and the radioactive fallout now is covering the northern hemispheres. And this is heavy duty stuff we're talking about. This is not just a few grams or ounces. We're talking about 10,000 pounds just got burnt off and released back into the environment of uranium, plutonium, americium, and everything else. That's crazy. Alrighty, here we go. Let me see. They picked up 30 million one-ton bags. Now they're claiming there's only 14 million. Hard cases. We're going to cover some news. I hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully doing weller than I am. It's been a tough day. James is working on a new song. We might get lucky here tonight. I'm choking out. So what I decided to do was hit ginger tea. But a spoonful of chopped up ginger, like just a level spoonful. Let it steep for 5 to 10 minutes. And don't add nothing onto it. No sugar, no tea bags, no milk or anything. And that's what all the famous musicians will do. If they start to lose their voice, they'll drink ginger tea. Because it's been proven to have really good effects. But the flu is kind of a different thing, right? It's given old nuclear reactors new life, the future of nuclear energy. I blew up laughing when I seen that one today. Because they can't build a reactor in less than 20 years, right? They're trying to get a nuclear renaissance, and how's that going? It's not. And so they're going to take these old reactors that are already fragile, brittle from the neutron bombardment, and these are very high pressure reactors, and they're going to extend their lives in order to keep the facade of a nuclear renaissance in a distant site. It's pretty disgusting. Geothermal can replace everything. Why not use geothermal? What are we waiting for? Anybody can do it. Any community can set up their own geothermal. You don't need shithead nuclear. Reviving old reactors, a viable solution for future. Let's go up to the big screen here. A viable solution for future nuclear energy. No. And look what they show you. They show you a nuclear power plant surrounded by farms. So anytime they show you a picture of a nuclear reactor, say from this distance, you're going to see farms as far as you can see typically, and communities a lot of the times, right? Right up to the site, eh? Is that Monticello? And the Mississippi River, I wonder? I'm not sure. Who knows? But every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. Because you see that red and white stack over there, the skinny one? That's venting the fuel pools, which are still splitting atoms. The same amount of atoms you would to power 1 million homes and businesses per reactor core that's in the fuel pool. They're still splitting those atoms. And they're vented into these farms. These farms are whisking it off to your supermarkets to poison you in distant places. Permanent, too. Which reminds me, we've got a poll tonight I forgot about. Has Fukushima nuclear meltdown radioactive fallout since March the 12th, not August the 24th, 2023, poisoned every species and every flora and fauna on the entire planet? This industry is batshit crazy. We should have a contest to see if we can find a good person in the nuclear industry. You won't get any applications, I can assure you. So the official story is nothing got out of Fukushima. Nothing got out of these two reactors that are missing 4/5 of the buildings. Nothing got out though. And the reactor cores and decades of reactor cores and the 2 fuel pools at the top of each of the buildings. There's 4 of them, by the way, at Fukushima. These are 2. This is reactor 4 behind me because my head is always in the way. Big head. So what's the odds something got out of these buildings that don't exist anymore after they blew up and caught fire and blew up and caught fire? And why are all nuclear power plants have farmland right up to the fences? Now if I drive along here and get out and walk along there, they'll come out and arrest me. And they'll certainly harass me. Japan may declare a severe disaster as record wildfire burns for the 8th day. Record wildfires burn for the 8th day. They give you jack shit when you're looking at operation, but on their way in Funato, Iowa Prefecture since last week. 13% of the population that shouldn't be there in the first place had to evacuate, thank goodness. But wherever they're to, it's going to be downwind of the fire because that's how sick this industry is. More than 2,000 troops and firefighters were deployed from across the country. So this is the real deal. And it's a nuclear wasteland. 2,900 hectares, which is about 29 square kilometers. Is this significant? That's the biggest fire they've seen in decades. The prefectural government said 19 helicopters, 8 large self-defense force helicopters, disaster prevention helicopters. They're going to be just incredibly radioactive. And that community is not going to be safe to go back into. That plume now is covering North America. There's no other way to describe it, only a radioactive plume. It's a radioactive wasteland. Remember, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags in Fukushima Prefecture. 30 million. Start counting, see if you can get to 30 million before you die. To give you some context. And that was on 3% of the land, that was farmland and communities, not the mountains. So the mountains they only scraped up 2 centimeters, less than an inch, 3/4 of an inch of topsoil. Get a shovel out one of these days and try to scrape up 3/4 of an inch of a topsoil and tell me how easy that is to do. It's such a tiny amount, it's irrelevant when it comes to radioactive fallout. If you had a single rainfall before they started, and you had many, typhoons included, then it's firmly entrenched in the roots and the trees, the leaves, the pollen, everything else. That's why you're not seeing any bees anymore. Radioactive pollen, or the pollinators. Reviving old reactors, a viable solution for future nuclear energy. Appeal to charge ex-TEPCO executives over Fukushima accident rejected. This is an interesting one. Chicago. Off to a rough start here tonight, I see. Japan's top court has rejected an appeal seeking criminal charges against 3 former executives at the Tokyo Electric Disease Factory over their alleged failure to prevent the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. It's common knowledge that they cut every corner conceivable in the tsunami walls. This is a country that is built on tectonic plates. Fukushima in particular is 40 miles away from the tectonic plates that go like this all the time, with a 3,000-year legacy of tsunamis over 300 feet tall in that prefecture, in that same spot. And there was no way they can forecast that that could happen. Really. Really. It's really interesting that they're able to get away with stuff like that. It's because they have no soul. They have no conscience. They have no other purpose only to destroy every species on the planet. Uphold a lower court ruling that the executives could have not foreseen the massive tsunami. But you're on tectonic plates. You're on tectonic plates. Gee, I'm not sure if we're going to get you to show them that. I slept the entire day. That's how sick I've been. It's crazy, isn't it? In hopes I can get a show in tonight. Uphold lower court ruling that the executives could not have foreseen the massive tsunami. How could you not foresee a massive tsunami when you're 40 miles away from the tectonic plates? How could you not foresee that? How does that actually work? Where you have 1,000 earthquakes a year along that coastline. How is it you couldn't foresee a bigger one when you actually have carved into the rocks at 300 feet is don't build houses below this level because of a 3,000-year legacy of tsunamis. So how could you never know that this could happen? You couldn't foresee a massive tsunami. You built it in an earthquake zone, an active one of the most active ones on the planet, 40 miles away from the tectonic plates. You know, where the continents do this, and they couldn't foresee it. Really. They're lucky they're not here, because I'd go deal with it myself. Charges against former TEPCO chairman were dismissed after his death last October. Well, I'd dig him up and burn him at the stake. Nearly 14 years after the disaster. Scumbag. Everything his family has should be liquidated and given to the victims. They should be sent into Fukushima. His family. In which the number 1 and number 3 two number 3 reactors suffer core meltdowns. So the number 1 to the number 3 reactors suffer core meltdowns. And fuel pools melting down. But not reactor 4. Nothing happened to reactor 4. Look at it. Clearly nothing happened to that building. Do you got any idea what kind of disgusting parasite the nuclear industry actually is? Well, you should give it some of your attention. It deserves that. You want your kids to have a future. You need to get active. So nothing happened to this building. Really. And officially nothing got out of the 4 reactors, including these 2, and the 8 fuel pools. Only the equivalent of 3 grams of sugar, according to the South Korean professor of nuclear quantum engineering. In 2023, Japan's top court upholds ex-TEPCO leaders' acquittal on negligence over Fukushima nuclear crisis. Because they couldn't foresee that a tsunami could happen where they've had 3,000-year legacy of massive tsunamis. That makes as much sense as a drunk driver, double the maximum limit a human should be able to consume, getting into an accident, killing the judge's family, and then sitting in front of the judge and say, well, there's no way to foresee that me drinking until I blacked out could cause an accident, sir. And the judge would be like, yeah, no, you're right. I'm going to dismiss all charges against you. The police were stupid to blame you being impaired for killing my family. What's the odds of that happening? better odds of the truth coming out than that happening. And the subsequent death of dozens of elderly residents. It was over 100 Alzheimer's dementia victims. And they were left behind in Fukushima, which is right alongside of the nuclear meltdowns to the north. They abandoned the town, which is still abandoned today, and Okuma to the south, which is joined onto the site too. And these were Alzheimer's victims, left them behind because I guess it doesn't matter, does it? It's not their family, so. You know, back in the 40s and 50s, because the government was meddling in farmers and cattle and stuff. And the cattle were showing up with Alzheimer's. And the farmers eventually figured out a cure for it. It was Cesium, is it? Selenium? And vitamin E, large doses. And that actually cured the Alzheimer's. I wonder would that work on humans? Something to think about. Said that a tsunami of the size that hit the plant was unforeseeable. Really? It's unforeseeable if somebody can call the pro-nuclear a human. To me, that's unforeseeable. I don't know how that works. No, Dana, he's a human, Dana. Come on. He's pro-nuclear. How can you be a human and pro-nuclear? The case was the only criminal trial related to the nuclear disease factory's event. Like calling this an accident when you built it on an earthquake zone with a 3,000-year legacy of tsunamis, with practically no defense at all, right in the hit zone. And then they know the prevailing winds will blow right across the Pacific to North America. The case was the only criminal trial related to the nuclear accident, where they contaminated the entire planet. Oh, boy. I'm starting to come around a bit there now. That's a miracle. It's been a long day, man. Just stand up for 5 minutes and then you have to lie back down again. The case was the only criminal trial. It's so hard to lie down all day. I don't know if anybody's tried that before. It's an impossible thing, eh? But when you're really sick, that seems to work for some reason. Just sleep it off all day. Try to let your body recover. Because your body recovers when you're sleeping, right? It does the repair work when you're actually asleep. And the case was the only criminal trial. Except for mine. Which I lost, of course. And everybody acknowledged that that was a kangaroo court. A large amount of radiation was released into the surrounding. Really? You sure it wasn't around the planet? Let's check that fact out. I'm kind of interested about that one. Oh. La. Stuffed up again here now. There's a crazy industry in it. There we go. Let's introduce some evidence to the counter of that narrative, I suppose. The surrounding area. The French study always blows my mind, eh? Let's go this route. Let's go this route. Where am I to here? Here we go. Got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these to get through. Radiation precautions for area near Seattle, Vancouver, Portland. Perhaps you need to wash your shoes. Like if you're in a radioactive fallout zone, they're telling you to wash your shoes. You got to shave your head, throw your shoes away, throw your clothes away, pack your bags, close your windows, and get ready to bail. Never come back. Highly radioactive glass rained on Tokyo. And these numbers, I've never even heard tell of these numbers before. This is the biggest numbers I've ever heard of. And this is 240, depending on where you're to in Tokyo, 270 kilometers away. 36 million people in metropolitan Tokyo. Highly radioactive glass. That's being very polite, radioactive glass. Fukushima nuclear fuel with 500 trillion atoms a kilogram. A kilogram. 500 trillion atoms a kilogram. So 180 atoms, like the age of an old turtle, 180. Pre-Fukushima was an evacuation zone at a nuclear site. Now 500 trillion a kilogram is like, you should let the kids outdoors to play. They really are a despicable lot, aren't they, in the nuclear industry? Government simulation shows radioactive plume of Krypton-85 as a nasty one too, boy. When plutonium mixed oxide fuel exploded on March the 14th over Tokyo. So Tokyo was, it's like when you're getting 500 trillion atoms of the so-called highly radioactive glass. How can you get radioactive glass from a nuclear meltdown? I don't know. I haven't heard that one before. But they're basically, each atom is considered, so a BQ is a becquerel, and a kg is a kilogram, right? So you got to multiply by 66.6 to get a square meter on the ground. So 500 trillion atoms, because you got to have an atom to make a becquerel. So to have 500 trillion becquerels, you need 500 trillion atoms. And the idea is to confuse you, right? Millisieverts, microsieverts, blah, blah, blah. And so you're talking about physical atoms that are pulsing energy maybe 600 feet every second, each one of them. Wrecking chromosomes, DNA, cells, everything else. Government simulations showed a radioactive plume of Krypton-85 over Tokyo. 1,000 years from now, Fukushima may be still entering the ocean. Not maybe, it's going to. How can you claw that back out of the China syndrome? How does that work? They found plutonium in every sample. Radiation absorbing bacterium is everywhere on paved surfaces. The French study, the IRS, the French government, the Ministry of Defense, the Environment Industry Research, was shown 1 million times normal, which is basically alluding to global weapons fallout radiation that's left over from the war they had. They call it testing, was it? Did you know a nuclear bomb, no matter whether it's done in anger or done in testing, is the same radioactive fallout? Isn't that a hoot? Just give me a second, I'll duck out. I gotta clean up a few things here. Here we go. I'm back in the saddle again. Anyway, let's keep it rolling here. So 1 million to 10 million atoms, 10 million times weapons fallout. So it could be 30 million atoms of cesium-137 they're talking about. But you can't have a plume, and that's a massive plume, by the way. You can't have a plume like that without all the other isotopes in it. And so to have a plume that's saturated per cubic meter of air at that numbers, this is the French government, of course. There was another study of 1,500 atoms of radioactive sulfur per cubic meter of air in California here. This is a super hot particle from idiots spraying salt water onto reactors. Literally, figuratively, idiots to do something like that. The sulfur is liberated and it creates these spherical balls. And they ingest the uranium, curium, the plutonium, the americium, etc. And so they're very mobile. Travel long distances. And they never go away. They attack everything with replicating cells forever. Muto, head of the prosecution side, called a ruling that came out just days ahead of the 14th anniversary of the accident cold-blooded. And one that tramples on the victims of the nuclear disaster, which is every species and every human on the entire planet. The court said the executives were not guilty of causing the death of 44 elderly patients. What about the other 60? I wonder. But already waning health deteriorated during or after forced evacuation from a local hospital and a nursing home. It wasn't forced, they left 100 behind, right? We covered it many times. It was impossible for TEPCO, like they had 30 million bags, now they got 14 million. They won't acknowledge where the other 16 million went. They had 100 plus Alzheimer's victims they left behind, and now it's only 44. Because that's all they can do. They can just... All they're good at is cutting your throat in every species on the planet. That's what they're good at. They're really good at it, too. It was impossible for TEPCO officials to predict a tsunami of that magnitude, but how was that? How was it impossible? What are you talking about? You're on the tectonic plates, for goodness sakes. Well, we didn't know we were on the tectonic plates. Doesn't work, right? And it's all good until everything drops dead. Reconstruction Minister vows to address the Fukushima soil reuse. So why would you reuse soil from a nuclear meltdown that you picked up? 30 million one-ton bags, $28 billion. Why is that an option? You don't know how to dig a big cavern and just throw it in there? It's not going to melt down on you. Why would you reuse it? Because the nuclear industry, in their sick and demented and twisted sadistic minds, doesn't get quite the big black eye if they reuse it. Oh, so it's harmless. We can reuse it. Now, if you took their kids and tried to bring them there to see the bags, they'll actually run you over with their car. How is this disgusting parasite? Look at bracelets on his friggin' arm, for God's sakes. How is this parasite? How is it the Japanese people haven't... He hasn't lost a hair in his head. Look at that. He's turning gray, but his hair is perfect. Has zero conscience, eh? Reconstruction Minister in a nuclear wasteland. You really got to be the lowest form on the totem pole, so to speak, to get that job, I would imagine. Minister for Reconstruction has pledged to fully tackle the issues regarding the reuse of radioactive soil, not soil from radiation decontamination work, but radioactive soil. You can't decontaminate soil, you disgusting maggot. I mean, you wonderful disgusting maggot. Indicated that the town would consider using such soil locally. That was the mayor who came out and said that about 2 weeks ago. Who doesn't live there, by the way. Nobody lives there. And the mayor's volunteering to reuse it in their own community. But why reuse it, though? You sick and demented and twisted and ruthless, vicious scum. Why would you reuse soil from the nuclear wasteland? You worthless scumbags. It's natural that Futaba residents are concerned, said the sadistic demon. Large amounts of decontaminated soil. So now they're saying the soil is decontaminated. You can't decontaminate soil. You can't decontaminate anything from nature. How can you decontaminate something from nature? They have zero science on their side. Zero, zilch, nothing. Not even a little tiny bit. Oh. Yeehaw. When asked what should be done to promote the disposal of such soil outside the prefecture, why would you dispose of it outside the prefecture? Just dig a big cavern and put it down there and leave it there. Where the water table is not going to ingress in there. How is it taken out of the prefecture going to change the equation? Right, that's the distraction, isn't it? said that isn't important to foster understanding among the public. It's important to lie to the public, is what he's saying. This disgusting parasite. Referring to the area still designated so-called difficult to return zones, so-called, / nuclear wastelands. Everybody else calls them a nuclear wasteland. Japan is the only one that's so soulless and heartless and moralless that they call it a difficult to return zone. They're not going there. They want you to go there. They want your children to go there. We do all we can to enable all residents who want to return to their nuclear wasteland to their original homes to do so as soon as possible. What kind of statement is this? It's an ongoing nuclear meltdowns, the likes we've never seen before in history anywhere on the entire planet. 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools, a total of around 36 reactor cores melted down. And what, you want to move people back within 2 kilometers? And the Japanese people are so gutless they're not dragging him behind a truck down the highway somewhere? It's inconceivable to me. On measures to increase the number, driven by a judge, on measures to increase the number of young people in the disaster areas. Oh, I got to move young people back in to pretend to the rest of the world that nuclear has some redeeming qualities. So let's try to be as evil as we can possibly be. Let's move children back in there. It's just unbelievable. That's nuclear, though, right? Find a story about nuclear that's not unbelievable. That is not totally sadistic. Have we actually ever covered a story about nuclear that's not sadistic? And holy shit, have we ever covered a lot of stories? We're well over 10,000 in the last 2.5 years. Fukushima women apologized to the Jeju divers over, this is South Korea's, over wastewater release. Did anybody mention to them that Fukushima melted down in 2011? And that the radioactive fallout contaminated the whole fucking planet? The west coast, just after Fukushima, with 220 million atoms. How could that get out? How could that get out if nothing got out until August 24, 2023? So this was like the first couple of weeks this happened. They apologized to the drivers. And the reason this is getting into the media is because they're going along with the narrative of the tritium. I haven't seen a single plume model of tritium in all these years. So think about you're inhaling this stuff. And we're talking about per liter of rainfall, just 220 million atoms. It's enough to saturate the thyroid gland of every species on the entire planet forever. Because it doesn't go away for 150 million years. And the problem about this stuff when it gets inside of you, it's a couple of billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And inhaling the particles increases the radiation exposure by a factor of 1 trillion. And the comparisons with X-rays and CAT scans are despicable, are revolting, they're meaningless. So bless their hearts for being so... They're going down to apologize to South Korea because in 2023, August 24, they read a story that said tritium is being released. Instead of looking at the pictures and say, wait a second. So this is the first couple of weeks or something. But this is what it would have looked like on the 16th of March. You see all the people there? Oh, that's right. No, you don't. Because, it's a nuclear wasteland. Women call for stronger ocean protection. Bless your hearts. But the reason they're in the media is because they don't know anything. Right? It's an act of good faith, but they're pretending that the reactors didn't blow up, that they didn't melt down, that the radioactive fallout didn't cover the entire planet. And that is not harmful when it's absolutely absurdly harmful. It's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. Looks like it's that time again here. Don't have a really good paper lift. I'll be right back. Here we are, we're right back. I told you I'd be right back. Some of me will be right back anyway. One part of my brain will be right back. God bless them, eh? And that's what he got up in the media, because they don't acknowledge that it happened in 2011. They're going with the 2023 narrative, right? August 24th, which is the cover story cooked up by the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, Taiwan, and China, and Japan, working hand in hand to manipulate people. And the only people that gets in the media are these complacent people who just don't know for some reason. They're put up in the media because a group of older women from Fukushima, from the nuclear wasteland, where there's 30 million one-ton bags sitting in 150,000 spots for many, many years. And they're suggesting nothing got out. How the fuck did they even tie their own shoes is the bigger question. Offered an apology Tuesday to the Koreans' traditional female divers. I was a commercial diver for 14 years. And I worked around 300 days a year on the ocean, up to 100 days back to back without coming ashore. And I ran some of the biggest fleets in the world too. It's a very honorable job. It's the hardest job there is, period. There is no hard job harder than diving. It's 2 marathons for 6 hours work I was doing a day. It was the equivalent of 2 marathons on your body. I would eat 4 plates of food every day about this big. Start off with the 3 pork chops and a couple of cups of hash browns, like real hash browns, real potatoes, and you put everything into it, onions and celery and peppers and you name it. Very difficult work on top of that. Very stressful work, right? And over the years, whenever we have a bottle on the boat, the tradition was to take a shot and dump it in the ocean for your buddies who never came back. For Tokyo's decision to release into the ocean treated wastewater. Well, it's because the anniversary is coming up, the last show before the anniversary. Let's talk about the wastewater for a minute. I know a few things like the waste in Japan. Man, it's a worthless industry. The nuclear industry is just worthless people. And I got the blue screen of death yesterday. And remember, my other computer went down the night before. They tried to hack my system, right? You can't install anything on this system. I can't even put another browser on this system that I use. It's so Pacific, right? The system won't even work. Well, it'll work, but it'll give you huge headaches. You'll know you got something installed on it. Filters. There we go. So this is a really interesting story, eh? Of course, South Korea shipped back 6 million pounds in 2014, was it? A radioactive fish from Japan. Fukushima. Shinzo Abe. Not that one. Let's do that one second. TEPCO unable to bring contaminated water issues under control at Fukushima, April the 21st, 2014. The Advanced Liquid Processing Systems, ALPS, has yet to function reliably. The Arriva system, which was the French system, was identical in many ways to the idiot. None of these can work. How are you gonna change a filter when it's tens of thousands of sieverts every day? Because you're talking about, you're pouring water over the reactor cores, for goodness sakes, what's left of them, and it's picking up particles. You can't filter that. You can't walk past the hoses going from tanks to the filtration system. It just simply doesn't work. The tanks were empty. The tanks were put there to manipulate you. For the last 3 years, the system was unused and kept out of operation. So the ELP system didn't work. The Revis in 2014, we know they didn't start building it until 2013. Where did all the water go before that? You didn't use any water? 100 million atoms per cubic centimeter of radioactivity estimated for the sludge. See, how are you going to change a filter when you're putting stuff like that through it? You can't. You can't get back in the building, let alone walk over the pipes and hoses. TEPCO says the groundwater bypass operation not having an effect. So we're going to build a wall behind Fukushima boundaries to stop the water coming down the mountain. Then they were going to pump it directly into the ocean so it didn't go through the site. That didn't work. They're going to build a fence to restrict the contamination from leaking into the ocean. Like, how are you going to build a fence for atoms? A fence. You know what a fence is, right? With gaps in it and stuff like that. How are you going to build a fence to stop atoms? And without a top on it and the bottom on it, how are you even if it did have some success, how could it work? Oh, they wanted $1 billion. They spent $28 billion picking up 30 million one-ton bags. The reality of it is you can't build a fence. So you couldn't build a wall to divert it around the site and pump it directly into the ocean. You couldn't build a fence down on the seaside to stop it from going into the ocean. And why would you build an ice wall of all things? Why wouldn't you build a real wall? You need $12 million a year to keep the ice wall allegedly frozen. We know that don't work. And that they had 260,000 people worked on the ice wall. 260,000. Where did he find all those homeless people to, I wonder? Like, it was built with taxpayers' money because it was experimental. It can't work. It doesn't have a bottom in it. These are nuclear meltdowns. Did I mention that? This industry is just perpetual scumbags. High-priced Fukushima wall near completion, but effectiveness is in doubt. Well, hang on, I gotta go upstairs here to get the last part of that story. Because what I'm showing you is facts. They're not opinions. They're not conjectures. They're just simply facts. That's what I show you. There's documentation. If you want to listen to the nipperhead, bird brain, parasite media, go right ahead. But I don't deal in that stuff. I just deal in facts. Because, facts are pretty cool. Except when they're not. Here we go. So, this story in 2013, February 11th. These images were released by the press pool. This was the ELP system. They released these pictures in February 2013. In the end of 2014, August the 9th, contaminated water problems worsened. The disastrous site has struggled with water decontamination for years. Just announced recently, they think they finally have the ELPS decontamination system operational. But they didn't, did they? So in 2015, they said they finally finished it, which is 4 years later. 2015, because this is what the buildings looked like in 2013. So how are you going to filter something that doesn't exist? How does that work? Anybody know? How do you filter something when it's ejected right into the buildings and covers the whole planet? Am I stupid or something for thinking that way? Should I just regurgitate their narrative? That's like a humble pie. Japan's National Cancer Center says the number of patients rose by 865,000 in 2012. A single year after Fukushima, 865,000 extra cancers. There was 14,000 13,646 out of 38,200 children with thyroid tumors of 2 centimeters or bigger, and a child's thyroid is around 2 centimeters. And tumors the size of the thyroid, which meant when you scale it, because it used to be 1 in a million, pre-Fukushima. Now it's 365,000 out of a million. In 2019, another study came out of congenital malformations for children, neonates and infants, needed open heart surgery when they were born, was 14.2% of 100,000 live births needed open heart surgery, which is 14,200 children. There's no statistic. We've never seen statistics like that before. I've never heard tell of anything like that before. Denying Fukushima is an issue is simply not a solution. EU Energy Commissioner called Fukushima an apocalypse and that everything was out of control. France says Japan has lost control. The French should leave the country. Swiss embassy evacuated Tokyo, 240 to 270 kilometers away. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. But nothing got out till August 24th, 2023, Dana. And it was released out of the tanks. It was tritium. And just give me a second to clean up my sinuses here. Yeah, baby. Here we go. Still in business here. So this thing that I headlined there, I mean, there was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year, but nothing got out. Excess cancer. Not everybody gets cancer. Not everybody had health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. It's not just cancer, right? There's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome. Here's South Korea. Japan fails to stop the radioactive discharges into the ocean, 2011. But no, nothing got out, Dana. They really are a worthless industry. This is just, when you look at their legacy, because this is what they've done their whole existence, right? The whole legacy is predicated upon deceit and dishonesty, bald-faced lies, right? They got a big budget. They got a really big budget. Another activist emphasizes the importance of protecting future generations from long-term consequences of contamination. Ocean water from a disabled nuclear power plant. Disabled. We've been fighting the words leak and disabled. And does this look disabled to you? Does this look like totally destroyed? Nuclear meltdowns. Because these are not like an industrial accident. These are nuclear meltdowns. These are more prominence, right? The ultimate prominence. We keep asking ourselves what we can do for our children's future. And meeting the South Korean female divers who are fighting to protect the beautiful sea is inspiring. It'd be even more inspiring if you had any concept of what was really going on. 7 Jeju's South Korean also took part in the gathering, expressing concern that the discharge of water could affect nearby waters and potentially impact the marine ecosystem. I'm not going to go into detail because we covered a lot of South Korea over the years, right? South Korea had hotspots all over South Korea after Fukushima, right after. And then the next administration came in and said there is no nuclear fallout whatsoever, despite the fact that it was all documented. The nuclear industry, of course, they're gutless. They're super gutless, eh? The worst humans on the planet is the pro-nuclear. Jang Sung-dok, who testified at the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2023 about the risk of wastewater discharges. So they found a perfect idiot, and they put them on a pedestal at the United Nations, right, who regurgitated the United Nations narrative. We see that constantly, like that routine, right? Gangwon province to halt radiation inspections for fishery products. Another South Korean story. Gangwon. So this is how they're checking shellfish for radiation, for instance. Any idea how fucking stupid that actually is? How disconnected you are to quantify that this is safe by doing that? And miraculously, they've never found any radiation whatsoever in a nuclear wasteland, which is South Korea. South Korea is a nuclear wasteland. Because Fukushima has contaminated the whole planet. South Korea didn't get away. Gangwon province will temporarily, what do you mean temporarily? Suspend radiation inspections for fishery products along the nation's eastern coast. It didn't begin in 2011, it began in 2023, August 24th, following Japan's discharge of wastewater. So really, you didn't bother checking after the nuclear meltdowns for radioactive fallout? It seems like we can't find anywhere on the planet where the nuclear industry is not disgusting. Like there are cases, eh? Well, the main thing is we get a show in anyway before the weekend, because the anniversary's on Tuesday. I won't be back until Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be a pretty big show. It's going to be an early show. It's going to go for quite a bit. It's the plan. No radiation was detected in 279 tests of fishery products in the production phase conducted since July 2023. It's hard to like anybody that lies as much as nuclear industry, isn't it? Just give me a second, see if I can. Oh, jeez. Hang on here. Scumbag nuclear. Oh, done it again. Fear-mongering. Here we go. We might have something here. How about this doozy? Rain caused 130 schools in South Korea to close. Does that count? Does truth count when it comes to nuclear? No. Cesium-137 hotspots, emitting 1,000% the normal radioactive fallout from weapons, 1,200 kilometers from Fukushima. Does that count? Does any of this count? Seaweed in South Korea was 0.81 microsieverts per hour. This is seriously contaminated seaweed. They're only looking for gamma, by the way. They're not looking for betas and alphas and neutrons. And why did South Korea ban 35 Japanese seafood products in 2012 if nothing got out until 2023? Anybody? That's silly me, right? The disgusting parasite provincial government, South Korea, said the safety of seafood from the waters off the eastern coast has been confirmed, except it wasn't, was it now? I got a whole folder on South Korea. The smoking reactor building doesn't look so good. No, it doesn't. They're talking about reactor 3 on top of that. That doesn't look very good. There's some of the redacted emails. That's a plutonium mixed oxide fuel. So how can we have detonations of reactor buildings, ejecting the fuel pools and the reactor cores right out of the building, but nothing got out until 2023? Nothing got out until 2023. My throat is starting to die on me. Somebody left a comment there that I needed a host, and I agree with you. We really wanted another host on this show, right? But where are you going to find somebody that's articulate? Really? That's the problem, isn't it? Just give me a second. I got to clean some nostrils here. I'll be right back. Man, it's a rough run tonight, eh? My goodness. And so this was from the Freedom of Information Act request, where there's 4 million emails were redacted, or not redacted, but released. And the links are below my videos all the time to these emails. They're going to be at the Nuclear Regulatory Agency. So when you get to the first page, it's going to be like a normal page. But when you click on any of the links, that's going to open a list of whatever is in that particular folder. And then each one of them is going to open a PDF file. And so you can see this story up there is 308 pages. Not story, but that file got 308 pages. And so you might have to go through 100 pages before you start finding anything that means something, right? Or you might get a folder with nothing but just crazy stories. When you're talking about 4.3 million emails, but nothing happened, but there's 4.3 million emails. But nothing happened. There was no issues. Oh, okay. So you got 4.3 million emails. Because that's how good the cover story actually is, right? Unit 5 and 6 cooling systems were restored after a short time. What are you talking about? Like, how can you restore anything when you had a tsunami wash away a 2,000 square mile part of the country? Because out in the Pacific Ocean, there was a batch of radioactive or tsunami debris that washed out. It was the size of Texas, 2,000 square kilometers. And then you got to remember also that 2,000 square kilometers patch of radioactive debris was incredibly radioactive because the radioactive plume, so this is the plume, this is based on 31 days. So that tsunami debris that's in the Pacific Ocean right there that just washed out off the coastline would have got coated with heavy radioactive fallout. And pellets too from the explosion. And that would have carried it all the way out into the middle of the Pacific, and it sank here, sank there, washed up on the coastlines here, and washed up on the coastlines there. So this is Cesium-137, the French government study, covering the entire planet in just the first couple of weeks, but nothing got out, Dana. How do you reconcile that big of a lie? How do you pretend that that's not happening? I'm doing pretty good. I didn't think I was going to make it to the first hour. Hydrogen explosions, Unit 1, 2, Unit 4. The hydrogen explosion is caused by the nuclear meltdown. March 21st, public meeting and the International Atomic Energy Agency. Radioactive release is underway. In 2023, August 24th, International Atomic Energy Agency went to Japan, picked up a $19 million check, because they're Japan's third biggest donor to the parasitic International Atomic Energy Agency. They were there a week and a half ago because of the bag stories just before the 14th anniversary, and they picked up a $14.6 million check. Come in, waved to people, shook hands, drank caviar, and then flew off somewhere else with a $14.6 million check. Radioactive releases are underway. And they show you these incredibly darked out pictures. They mean nothing, right? Even to an expert, it would mean nothing. TEPCO injecting seawater to the reactor units and spent fuel pools for Unit 1 to 4 by fire trucks. You weren't injecting jack shit. At best, you had some of the self-defense force was down by the seaside, and they were shooting water over the turbine buildings towards the reactors. But like a reactor needs 1 million gallons a minute, 4,500 tons each reactor each minute. So think of these hoses were shooting about 200 tons a day, and a reactor needs 4,500 tons a minute. So if you stood in front of your house and there's 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks with a ton of water each going past your house every minute, try to visualize that. 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks going past your house each minute. It's a lot of energy, right? And so each nuclear power plant is dependent upon 2 dedicated gas, oil, or coal plants. 2 of them dedicated to the nuclear site, because the nuclear site is like a big city. It uses so much energy. Each reactor is using 4,500 tons, 1 million gallons a minute. These are astronomical numbers we're talking about. That's just a fraction of the equation of the energy necessary for that site. So now apparently fire trucks. Doesn't work that way. There was lethal doses everywhere. Most of the fire trucks were destroyed with the tsunami, by the way, because idiots had it right on the coastline. TEPCO working to restore electric power to Unit 1 to 4. How can you restore power to buildings that don't even exist? March 26th, April the 2nd. That was the people. This was our weather observatories observations. I was they had a whole list of that in this particular folder. Northwest, west, northwest, west, southwest, southeast, west, west, west. So it was blowing all over Japan, wasn't it? And I just grabbed them from my personal collection, basically, as I got a tendency to do, right? Temperatures were freezing, snow and everything else, but they said the yellow fallout in Tokyo was pollen. It simply wasn't, now was it? They really are a parasite on every species on this planet. Now they got their way, they got the whole planet destroyed permanently. At least I hope they're happy. They worked really hard for it. Now they finally succeeded in destroying everybody's future and the 8 million species future. All the plants, all the insects, all the birds, all the whales, all the mammals, all the animals is now permanently poisoned because of this idiot machine known as nuclear. They're idiot machines. They're ruthless scumbags on top of that. Operation Long Jump is in full effect, I noticed. There was 127 views on last night's video. It was actually a really good video. Thursday, March 24, 2011. Iodine-131 is only one isotope, and I'm sure there will be others. Any plans to report on the others? There was a question. They like iodine-131 because it has an 8-day half-life. And it's a really low thing to do. It's a really nasty, because the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rod is the curium isotopes. Curium isotopes need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium, for goodness sakes. Yeah, plumes covering the entire planet, and they were calling it leaks. Just surprised the whole planet hasn't caught them out in the open and made away with them. I'm a little bit embarrassed, actually. And all these years, you still can't help but wonder why they think they're humans. You can't help but wonder, do any of them have a fucking mirror in their houses? Does any of them appreciate the significance of what they've done? Or was it the plan, right? Iodine, well, you had plume models from TEPCO. After this, a 20-day plume model of plutonium-239 covering the whole planet. But they didn't want to talk about iodine-131 originally, right? They had plume models of neptunium-239, by the way, covering the whole planet. But no, let's talk about iodine-131 because... And neptunium-239 decays to plutonium-239 in about 2.5 days. At this time, we do not expect to see radiation at harmful levels reaching the United States from the damaged, which I find really offensive, by the way, to say the words like damaged. I think all of these people, we still need to hold them accountable. That's reactor 3 detonating. And this was the media. Look where they cut off the picture. Because if they had left it running, you would have seen the reactor core and the fuel pools falling back down to Earth. That's where they cut the picture, the video off right there, not me. You had 1,500 atoms. These are catastrophic numbers per cubic meter of air. You had 1 million atoms on the ground of xenon-133. This is per square meter on the ground, covering your whole planet. This is full-body X-rays for every species in the forests and the meadows and the communities and the kids and the humans and everybody else. 20 million particles, actual particles. Each particle is pulsing multiple pulses a second. At least 20 million pulses of energy every second. Per liter of rainfall. This was probably particles of curium, by the way, not iodine. And another study was showing a proper ratio of 220 million atoms of iodine-129. So the 131 would have a ratio of 10 times more iodine-132 and 30 times more iodine-133 and 31 times more iodine-129. The iodine-132 and 133 are 9 times more efficient at ionizing and radiating the thyroid gland than the incredibly efficient iodine-131. They didn't even mention those numbers because that's what terrorists do, right? If a nuclide concentration exceeds the reporting levels average on a calendar quarter, the licensee may be required to report the data to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, not right away, but within 30 days. So there's no checks and balances. Did you have any emissions? No. Oh, well, they reported it within 30 days. Why don't you report it right away so everybody can get out of Dodge? A very slippery slope when you leave a monster in charge of the most dangerous elements in human history. Report the data to the Nuclear Non-Regulatory Commission within 30 days. This other idiot, Halt, I need to pick up some potassium and make sure I have my dosimeters as needed. Apparently, the regulatory agency, he was headed into Tokyo. Not Fukushima, but Tokyo. They went to Tokyo, right? They didn't go to Fukushima. The IAEA never went anywhere near Fukushima for the first 11 years. Initial response is a nuclear emergency. This stuff is really important, by the way. This is very important. When the Minister of Medi recognizes that the Pacific initial event exceeded the predetermined levels and has developed into an emergency, the Minister immediately reports it to the Prime Minister's office. What's the point of having 100 sirens around a nuclear power plant when you're going to wait till everybody's radiated before you decide to make a decision? The Prime Minister must declare the nuclear emergency. And he's the one who has to advise or direct the related local governments on necessary measures. So his experts are going to be the monsters of the industry, the degenerates of the industry, the ones that are most likely to destroy everybody's health. That's who he's going to get his advice from. The worst humans ever created. Necessary measures such as sheltering Why would you shelter at a nuclear meltdown, for goodness sakes? Or evacuations to be taken by them? Why would you put the industry in charge of itself? Because you're talking about something 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. So they're giving them the keys to your life is an idiot move, right? The Prime Minister declares nuclear emergency, advises or directs related local governments on necessary measures. Well, there you have it. That sums it all up now, don't it? Such as sheltering or evacuation to be taken by them. Prime Minister establishes nuclear emergency response headquarters in Tokyo, 240 kilometers away from the nuclear meltdowns, which he will head, and local nukesters emergency response headquarters in the district where emergency measures are to be taken. Local government established their own emergency response headquarters following declarations of a nuclear emergency. Local government established. So these are people who know nothing about nuclear whatsoever. Calling up the mayor's office, said we got a nuclear meltdown, figure out what to do with the victims. It's the stupidest thing you could have done, and the ultimate outcome was catastrophic to the country and everybody else and every species on the entire planet. Each local government develops its own detailed local plan for emergency preparedness. Each local idiot machine develops its own detailed local plan for emergency preparedness. Is there anything more frightening than that statement? Each local government develops its own detailed local plan for emergency preparedness. My God, boy. The volume may have been a bit off that time. I didn't have it cranked up exactly where it's supposed to be. Because my volume meter, the master volume meter, which is the typical one I use mostly, is you have to go up into the center. So if I'm on this side, you're going to get mostly on that ear, right? It's going to be shy, a little bit shy in this ear. And if I go too far past the top notch, you're going to be getting more volume out of this ear. And so I had it slightly off-center. That's unusual for me. Hopefully that didn't affect anybody. To carry out emergency environmental radiation monitoring for gamma, they're not going to look for betas or alphas or neutrons or plutonium or uranium or americium or neptunium, or they're just going to look for cesium and iodines at best. Even 14 years later, that's all they acknowledge for the most part, right? We have documentation of the other stuff, but the government didn't acknowledge that stuff. The residents receiving advice and direction from the Prime Minister. So the chain of command is so slow, everybody's guaranteed to get poisoned. Everybody. Even if it was a localized to Japan accident, everybody would have been in the worst positions. Right? They're so anal, they're so arrogant, and so much hubris, based on the reports of the Ministry of Medi, which is the degenerates themselves. Emergency activities are roughly divided into 5 categories. Again, right, to restrict consumptions of food and drinks, to conduct emergency medical treatment. There was 500 hospitals around the world was ready to take radiation victims. I can guarantee you there wasn't a single one was sent out to them. The Fukushima Medical University made sure nobody got the care they needed. 27 March 2011. Wind directions. Blah, blah, blah. Today, over 400 reactors worldwide generate a substantial amount of emission-free electricity. Each reactor has fuel pools. Once you take the first reactor core out, put it in the fuel pool, it's splitting atoms directly into the local environment and the worldwide environment. It's the stupidest thing. Hang on here. Oh well. I just stripped my throat out that time. That's the way it goes sometimes. Let me see. Oh my goodness, eh? That was a rough one. That was a rough one. I don't know if I can go any longer. I don't think I can. I do believe first I got a big pile of tissues there on the floor. Yeah, we'll call her quits here. And the good news, James Lucid got a song out. Just perfect timing, man. Yeah, we're going to have to end that now because I'm shot here. That's okay. That's known to happen a few times. As Fukushima nuclear meltdowns, radioactive fallout since March the 12th, 2011 poisoned every species. That's humans, birds, animals, mammals, plants, trees, you name it. Whales, whatever. On the entire planet, yes. I apologize, everybody, because the last 3 shows I've had the nasty flu, right? And just because the anniversary is coming up on Tuesday, I didn't feel taking time off was an option. We needed to get some documentation out there to counter the relentless propaganda that they probably already started with, right? So the good thing tonight is James got a song out, so we'll go with that. That's a great thing. Snakes of Fukushima. I love it. They're actually going to put Geiger counters on snakes and monkeys, right? Remember that stories back in the day? I got no idea what James got there, but we're going to be hearing it in about a minute. And then I'll see everybody on Tuesday. If I'm not recovered by Tuesday, I'm in trouble. I'll just do reruns of shows, right? Tuesday's going to be a difficult day because I want to do a long show early in the day and keep it going all day long. So most likely I'm going to have some replay shows, right? But I'll be sitting there in the background and I'll be watching the comment section, probably joining in. And we want to promote the truth on the worst day in human history. So everything I've done so far, and I need to go up there and delete that because we cover so much, like a clearinghouse for information here. We cover so much, it's so hard to find your way back a few days later. So just bear with me, let me get that over with. Alright, I got that. Just get back into my key positions. Alright, here we go. Actually, let me try this. I'm going to turn the music down for number 4. I'm going to restart that. I just want to make sure I get 1080. I don't know how long this video has been up there, but not very long. 12 minutes. Yeah, perfect timing, James. Awesome, buddy. I'm going to sit back with you guys and enjoy this. I just got to turn the volume back up on my end. And I'll catch the volume live. I'll adjust it on my end. I'll either turn it all the way up or back down to adjust it for your ears. Here we go.
Tag the head, track the coil, watch it slither through the soil. Radiation locked in scale, follow motion, log the trail. Baseline set, data clean, numbers climb but stay unseen. Mark the path, repeat the scan, trace exposure, map the land.
VHF scans, logs the crawl. Snakes move slow, absorb it all. Graph the wave, chart the spread. Publish findings, case is dead. Algorithms, smooth the spike. Radiation, reads alike. Track the subject, note the trend. Input stable, shift again. Oh, the snakes of Fukushima. What the hell? Snakes of Fukushima. Science gone to hell. Numbers shift. Running back. Plotch the facts. Plotch the facts.
Results are in, report is filed. Peer reviewed, the test runs wild. Level stable, all control. The story told is getting old. Graph the wave, approve the plan. This is science, understand. Declare it safe, adjust the frame. Nothing here has ever changed.
Snakes of Fukushima. What the hell? Snakes of Fukushima. Science gone to hell. Numbers shift. Running back. Plotch the facts. Press the facts.
The monitoring continues. Remain within established safety models. The study confirms radiation impact is within controlled parameters.
Holy shit, I love it, man. That was excellent. Let me give that a thumbs up. And we'll put that in my favorite. So if you want to hear a bunch of songs that I picked out, all of them are fantastic, but these are the ones I've been building a list of. You can go to the anti-nuclear music in my playlist. And another amazing job. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Not tomorrow night, what am I saying? On Tuesday, the 14th anniversary of the Extinction Level event. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.